welcome to Sassy Southern Stories. Make some noise, please. Thank you, Stacy. Where's Stacy? Thank you, Stacy. And thank you to everybody at the Ebell who helps make this evening happen. First and foremost, we have to thank this genius man over here who doesn't want to be thanked, but we're thanking him anyway. Greg Sydenham, you are the best. And Meredith Dighton, and Ryan Bomiad, and Brian with 2 A's. All of our wonderful, and all the people here at the Ebell. So just a huge applause for all of them for being here and for making this possible. We are so delighted that all y'all are here tonight. And by the way, that will be the last time this girl will even attempt to say anything even remotely Southern, because the only thing Southern about me is I'm from South Jersey. Not that there's anything wrong with that, right? But the good news is we have 6 actual bona fide Southern women that are going to speak their mind here on the stage tonight. Before we go on, I would love you to help me welcome, give a huge hand for our wonderful music, the Guest House Band. Let them hear it. Before I say another word, you're probably wondering who is this spectacular woman standing next to me. Let me take a moment to introduce my co-producer and sister story whisperer, Suzanne Weerts. Suzanne launched her company, Jam Creative, in 2017, and since then, her storytelling productions have raised over $50,000 for local nonprofits. Fabulous. Yes, you can applaud that.
And I just love me some Wendy Hammers. Her company, Tasty Words, is a highly acclaimed spoken word salon created, hosted, and curated, that's the word, yeah, by Wendy herself, and she's been serving up hilarious and horrifying stories told by the people who lived them since 2001.
And some of these people were there in those early days. They've been here the whole time. At Tasty Words, we presented over 100 different shows, but never one with a Southern theme, which is something I always wanted to do. And then I came here, and I met this beautiful gal. And I thought, yeah, this is where we have to do a Southern show. It just made perfect sense. So I knew I'd found the perfect home for this show.
Yeah, and indeed, this space feels to me like the South. It's like what I imagine the Carolina Country Club would be like if my family were rich enough to have joined it. Or perhaps a place at Pinehurst. But alas, this space allows anyone who is interested to be a member. And there is so much history here, like Stacy said, where you can meet and engage with people of all backgrounds and enjoy exceptional programming and connect with LA's past while working toward a meaningful and inclusive future. And that is why Wendy and I joined the Ebell, and we seriously invite anyone who's here to be a part of it with us, as is Sharon Lawrence, as are many of my friends who are here in the audience.
If you are a member of the Ebell, raise your hand. Yay, welcome everyone. Well, join us.
And men can join too.
Yes, men can join too.
Help us dismantle the patriarchy, will ya?
So, what do you think?
Oh yes, and now I'm wondering, are y'all ready for some sassy Southern stories?
All right, fantastic. So tonight you're going to see and hear 6 women storytellers. The first one coming to the stage, who's going to be kicking off the show, is a stand-up comic and storyteller whose solo show, The Truth Be Told, was featured at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in Scotland. As an actress, her national commercials include MetaQuest, and currently she has an Xfinity Mobile commercial running, and I just watched it today. It's hilarious. This fall, she'll be appearing in the play The Heart Tells Tales at the Skiptown Playhouse, but she's here tonight, lucky us. And we asked each of the storytellers tonight what is one thing that they missed about the South. And when I asked her, she said, the intense colors of the nature. For example, the grass is so green in Kentucky, it has a blue sheen, hence blue grass, right? This is a story coming on the heels of the 101st Kentucky Derby. Please help me welcome my dear friend Jenn Brown with The Others.
The sun shines bright on my old Kentucky home. It's summer and everyone's gay. The corn tops ripe and the meadows are in bloom, while the birds, they make music all day. The young folks roll on the little cabin.
Hello, everyone. Now, do I strike you as a Southern belle? I grew up in the South, but the rest of my family was born in Brooklyn. Mom, Dad, my sister, my grandparents on both sides, all of them had Coney Island Knishes running through their veins. But before I was born, my parents moved to Louisville, making me the Kentucky Fried version of my New York Jewish tribe. Those Kentuckians didn't know what hit them when we Browns rolled into town. This was the late 60s. My father, Dr. R.J. Brown, was one of the original naturopaths, a practicing chiropractor and nutritionist, or as the Kentuckians back then called him, a witch doctor. And as if being the weird doctor on Valletta Lane wasn't enough, Valletta being a genteel neighborhood full of square ranch houses, my parents designed and then built a double A-frame house. In fact, a number of articles appeared in the Louisville Courier-Journal documenting the creation of these weird two triangles that were to become our family home. Our house wasn't the only thing that was strange. Even our food was strange. Let's just say in our fridge there was more gefilte fish than grits. And I remember my mother introducing sour cream to our housekeeper, Mildred. She had never heard of it. And when she first spotted it in the fridge, she was concerned that my mom was trying to poison the family with some spoiled milk product. So there we were, 4 strange Jewish people living in what seemed like a spaceship on Mars. It was even shaped like a giant M for Mars. But we learned fast that if you're a Kentuckian, no matter what planet you came from, on the first Saturday in May, you're either at Churchill Downs or in front of a television to experience the greatest 2 minutes in sports, the Kentucky Derby. Especially on Saturday, May 1st, 1971. Before the race, the entire population stands to sing the emotional state anthem, My Old Kentucky Home. Oh, the sun shines bright on my old Kentucky home. Oh, thank you. Mint julep-laced tears run down the cheeks of Kentuckians everywhere, from the folks in the mountains to the ladies in their fancy derby hats. And then the bugle sounds. Dun-dun-dun, 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 dun-dun. The hair raises on your arms and the back of your neck. Then the starting bell rings, and they're off. I assert everyone in Kentucky, and indeed around the world, is standing, screaming, and jumping up and down. It's impossible to sit still for these 2 minutes. All thanks to a stallion named Cannonero II, an unknown 3-year-old that shocked the horse racing world. And Cannonero was a last-minute wild card placement with odds 50-1. At the far turn, Cannonero was in 18th place, which is where we all thought he was going to stay, when the jockey, Gustavo Avila, let him loose. This horse sprouted wings and ran past the pack like they were standing still. Cannonero crossed the finish line, winning the race handedly by 3 lengths. The announcers were stunned. And the surprise winner is Cannonero II. And it's historical, Ted, the first horse out of Venezuela to win the Kentucky Derby. When the cameras panned to the winner's circle, we saw this miraculous horse being draped in the traditional cape of red roses and satin green ribbon. We also saw 4 ecstatic brown-skinned men. The 2 owners, the trainer, and the jockey, and none of them speak English. The press barely got their interviews. Well, that was exciting, my dad said. It's always great to see an unknown gallop his way to glory. We turned off the TV and slowly started getting ready for dinner. Mom went right back to the kitchen after the race to continue preparing her mouth-watering brisket. Yay. FYI, brisket is to Jews as ham is to Catholics. A little later, the phone rang. My father picked up. Dr. Brown here. Oh, yes, hello. What now? Why? We have nothing to do with horses or racing or anything. And then we hear my dad agree to something. My mother intuitively panics. Dad goes over to Mom and began with, "Got enough brisket for 8?" My mom said, "Yeah, and oh my God, who's coming to dinner?" The answer? The 4 Venezuelans who just won the Kentucky Derby. They have nowhere to go, and we've been asked to host them. And when Dad asked the race representative why, he said, "Well, I know y'all speak Spanish," which was true. And my mother also spoke fluent French, and both my parents were fluent in Yiddish, and as a result, German and Dutch. While our neighbors, well, they only spoke Southern. Translation, they figured the brown people would be most comfortable with the Brown family. You know, the weird Jewish folks in the Triangle's house. To put it another way, they were sending the outsiders to the outliers. We were asked if they needed to send us food, and we informed them that we had it covered. But they sent over a bottle of Maker's Mark and a Derby pie anyway. And before we knew it, the winners of the Kentucky Derby walked through our front door. The energy was intense. Their entrance was like a gale force wind that nearly blew us backwards. And I couldn't take my eyes off the jockey. He walked past me as he entered, eye to eye. I was 11 years old and 4 feet 11 back then. I'd never seen a grown-up my size. Once the 8 of us were seated in the dining room, my father cracked open the bourbon and the adults toasted. My parents then interpreted for my sister and me that they knew they had been thrown somewhere and that they were very glad because they felt like they had been given shelter away from the fray. Se les había dado refugio lejos. They needed to process the fact that they had just gone from utter obscurity to world fame in 2 minutes. And although my sister and I were young, we understood what they were going through. I'll also never forget the moment my proud Jewish mother came waltzing from the kitchen to the table, presenting her scrumptious brisket, as if she knew when they tasted it, it would outshine winning the race itself. Their faces lit up as they savored the first bite. Delicioso! After dinner, we invited our neighbor Victoria over for drinks. Victoria was 5 feet 8 inches of fun with thick, long brown hair. She floated in like a summer breeze, wearing a big smile and a frilly flowered dress. As soon as she entered, the men stood to greet her, with the jockey standing cleavage high. The delicious evening became electric as the guys hung on her every word, even though they didn't understand a thing she said. Hi, y'all. I'm Victoria. That race was just marvelous. Eso fue bastante muy maravilloso. I'm so thrilled for y'all. Estoy muy emocionado por ustedes. The guys ate her up like a third helping of brisket. The evening didn't go on too much longer as the Venezuelans were still in shock and exhausted. And after we said our goodbyes, the 5 of us, my family and Victoria, just stood there and stared at each other. Did that just happen? 2 weeks later, as our family now had a vested interest. We gathered around to watch the Preakness, the second leg of the Triple Crown. Would Canonero be able to pull it off again? The world is anxiously waiting and watching. We caught glimpses of our friend Gustavo on his newly famous horse entering his gate. And they're off! The hooves started pounding as the horses began their journey, a sound that got your heart racing every time. My family and I were screaming, "Come on! Come on!" The announcers. And down the final stretch they come. It's Canonero nose to nose with Eastern Fleet, one of the other favorites. My father screamed, come on, God damn it! I started crying. And at the last second, Canonero inched forward and won the Preakness by 1 length. Well, you've never heard 4 people make so much noise in their living room. Now, the cameras go into that winner's circle, and who do I see? Victoria! Hey, I screamed, that's Vicky hanging on one of the owner guys. We all stopped short with our jaws open. Dad said, did anybody know? No. I remember my mom saying, well, apparently Victoria has crossed her own finish line. And so had I. For that night in May of 1971, I learned that being different was not only okay, it was cool. Lesson, I'd cross the finish line with the outliers every time.
Jenn Brown. Y'all see where the Kentucky Derby influence came from? Yeah. So you may recognize our next storyteller as the voice of God at the 2022 Oscars. Her credits include Grey's Anatomy, NCIS, Criminal Minds, and This Is Us. Up next for Janora McDuffie is the Hollywood Fringe Festival upstairs at the El Centro, June 21st, 22nd, and 29th. She has a one-woman show, Earth, Wind, and Car Fire. Janora says what she misses most from the South are the lightning bugs. And now, yeah, a lot of people out here call them fireflies, but I'm with you, Janora. They are lightning bugs. Y'all, here's Janora McDuffie with Let Me Tell You About Some Soul Food.
Take your time and say it, that's all right. Hold on, child. Yes, sir.
Growing up in Durham, North Carolina, better known to the locals as Durham, for as long as I could remember, I'd go to Sunday school at the small missionary Baptist church that my granddaddy helped build, then walk up the dirt road about a quarter mile to Grandma Eddie Mae's house. She was the OSC, the original Southern cook. Her Sunday dinner menu was a mouth-watering rotation of fried chicken, pot roast, green beans, turkey neck, scalloped potatoes, homemade chicken and dumplings, turnips, squash, collard greens, and cornbread. And you know, dessert had to be just as heavenly. It would either be her world-famous pound cake, peach cobbler, banana pudding, or you know it, sweet potato pie. Now, 2 things about this weekly Southern spread of goodness make the experience even more authentic. Number one, 80% of it was made on an old school wood stove because she said, the electric stove just don't cook right. And two, so much of what was made was picked from their farm, and even sometimes from the livestock in their barn, chicken coop, or pig pen. Shucks, I remember when they slaughtered a pig and butchered it right outside their house, removing all the edible parts. And yes, I do mean all. And although not on the rotation as frequently as a fried chicken, who can pass up certified organic chitlins? Hey, don't knock intestines till you try them. Now, these skills were definitely passed down to my mom. Growing up, all my friends knew that if Mama Nora was cooking, it was going down, and you better come with your stomach empty. Now, after finishing college, just about 20 minutes away from home, go Heels, my acting dreams were calling, so now I left my Southern comfort to take the Hollywood plunge. Now, it was definitely an adjustment. Now, collard greens were replaced with chard. And if there was any seasoning at all, it'd be smoked turkey, replacing my perfectly salty and savory bacon or fatback. And that is, if it even was a place where meat was acceptable. So needless to say, my taste buds got a little homesick. I used to get excited when I found a soul food joint out here. Oh, I just knew the right plate of food would instantly transport me back to my grandma's house. Unfortunately, that idea was short-lived because it turns out Southern California does not do Southern food very well. I mean, how you not gonna use egg to make your macaroni and cheese? Then, I hoped dating life would bring me into somebody's family dinner home where my palate could be potentially rewarded with something familiar. So I eventually got the chance to test out this theory. I started dating someone seriously whose home was just 30 miles south of LA. Yep, right in the heart of Irvine. All right, fine, you got me. My beloved was white. But hey, so was Paula Deen, and that woman knows her way around the kitchen and the magic of butter. Just as long as the family didn't use the same vocabulary as Paula, I was absolutely gonna give them a fair shake. So their Thanksgiving menu consisted of turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, and cranberry sauce. So to the average West Coaster, I mean, it seems pretty standard. But to the girl from the South, Southern Holidays 101, it is never about the turkey. It's all about the sides. Where are the turnip greens, the yams, the cabbage? I mean, it's not on my top 10, but hello, can we at least get some green bean casserole? And for the record, it is dressing, not stuffing. And it is 100% sweet potato pie, not pumpkin pie. In fact, I don't even think I had pumpkin pie till that day. Well, now, Christmas was coming up, and returning home to Durham has always been a rule for this holiday. So I guess it was finally time for me to show my love, not only how we do it back down south, but the reason it meant so much to me. Our relationship depended on it, and the stakes were high. I mean, y'all, these were my roots. I grew up in my grandma's kitchen. And it wasn't just Sundays that I had the joy of being there. I was there practically my first 5 years of life because my mom dropped me off there every day before she went to work until I started kindergarten. Now, I'm gonna call you baby girl because I'm raising you from a baby on up. Now, this raisin had a daily routine. The morning started with preschool, which consisted of watching Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, and The Price is Right to learn my letters, my manners, and a little math, of course. And the afternoons were a mashup of me following in behind my granddaddy, feeding the animals, or snapping pole beans on the porch with my grandma, or maybe stopping next door to Aunt Mer's for her homemade buttermilk biscuits. Now, Aunt Mer, by the way, could be pronounced Aunt Mary if you chose to slow down the syllables and took yourself out of the South. Now, I know. You're waiting on me to say that I eventually went back inside to watch the stories, right? Because that's what everybody did with their Southern grandma growing up. Well, my grandma actually never watched TV. She only listened to the radio. She would sit in the living room and listen to her spirituals. When she wasn't cooking or working around the house, she'd be in her rocking chair, her Bible arm's distance away, looking out the window. And every time, without fail, when the gospel song, Rough Side of the Mountain, came on, she'd call me in the living room to sing it. Baby girl, they playing your song. Yes, Grandma. I'm doing my best to make it in. Okay, but I never heard or ate a collard green. I heard of one, but I ain't never had one. Says my lover, in response to this powerful nostalgic moment and mission critical invitation home. Okay, first of all, there is no singular version of this masterful staple of the South. And second of all, how is this even possible? I know I'm talking about collard greens, but was I truly ready to go down this road where something so familiar and important to me was so foreign and strange to the person I may be spending the rest of my life with? Well, although I was absolutely ready to finally share the food and experience that shaped me, there was also a part of me that was super nervous about a few other things that were on the table. Not only was I bringing my white significant other home to the South, but, spoiler alert, my significant other was also a woman. So, better question, was the South ready for us? Now, to be fair, I did not spring all these details on my folks that Christmas. It had been a few years of a slow burn coming out process. But this definitely was the first time extended family and family friends were part of the equation. Now, one thing we at least had going for us was the Southern hospitality rules of engagement, which means if something not so nice is to be said, it will be accompanied with a smile and preceded by, bless your heart. So here we are at the Christmas dining room table. My amazing partner, my parents, my siblings, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, my play cousins, and the spirit and recipes of Grandma Eddie Mae. Was Aunt Diane gonna give us a side eye if my girlfriend asked her to pass the fresh baked dinner rolls? Was Uncle Jerry gonna pretend to be deaf if I asked for extra homemade gravy? Would Cousin Christy not want to hold our hands during grace, but instead ask the Lord to deliver us from evil? Well, let me tell you what saved Christmas. The food. The sweet potato casserole with the perfectly toasted marshmallows on the top, the lima beans and corn, the creamy mashed potatoes, the dressing. When everyone connected on this level, of the meal prepared with so much love and heart. There was something almost spiritual about it. And you know what? There was not one "bless your heart" to be muttered. I will always be grateful to my family for welcoming us both home to the South with open arms. I am also grateful that my now wife knows so much more about who I am through what's on the stove every time we return home. It always equates to love. I definitely know now why it's called soul food.
Another hand for Janora McDuffie. That's my soul sister right there. I just want to let y'all know that the bar is open for another 20 minutes if y'all need yourself another mint julep or something like that. All right. So, our next storyteller is a familiar face at the Ebell. She's been a member for over 10 years. She has 6 Emmy nominations as well as a SAG award for her portrayal as Sylvia Costas on NYPD Blue. She starred as Velma in Chicago on Broadway and can currently be seen on Paramount Plus in Joe Pickett. You can also find her in the dark comedy Trauma Play at IMA Theater from May 22nd to June 2nd. In her spare time, she serves on the board of directors for Heal the Bay. And what she misses most about the South is liver mush. Here is my fellow UNC Tar Heel sister, Sharon Lawrence with Southern Slut.
Well, sitting on the porch with a lot of other Southern sisters, I do appreciate the soil and the soul from which we spring. It's been 40 years since I've lived in the South, but I do go back often to see my family, to support my university, Go Heels, to film television series or perform in theaters, or to follow friends into new phases of life. My connections there are real and strong, but my affection for my roots is complicated by the personal and collective era in which we are now living. You're probably familiar with the dance we Southerners do to embrace our traditions, but that tone of music has become a bit more discordant for me. It's absolutely rooted in politics. But I believe it's also about the veneer that our society has always and continues to place on women and their regard for us. As a girl child born in the South, in the baby boom in Charlotte, North Carolina, which was one of the fastest growing cities in that region, my white middle-class upbringing was easy going without drama or deprivation. My father worked in television news, and my mother was a warm and good-natured and rather introverted stay-at-home housewife whose most notable distinction was that she was, without dispute, the most effortlessly beautiful young woman in any environment she encountered. Whether it was family or friends or church, she was voted senior beauty at East Tennessee State University, and for decades cast as the head angel in Park Oak Baptist Church's living nativity scene at Christmas. My mother's beauty was natural, and it was part of her identity, but it had never been anything that she wielded power with over others. But neither did she resist against the inequities or reject any of the confines for women of her generation. Only once or twice did she relate the story with mild frustration that she was rejected for a job in her chosen field because she was young and married, and that meant that she was not a good candidate because she would likely get pregnant, and no one wanted pregnant women to work. I'm sure that I got that message subliminally. And think about it. If you are younger than me, you may not know this, but you never saw a pregnant woman on television. So while mothering was a given, it was not compatible with professions. And I don't really recall even craving marital status. After all, my idol, I Dream of Jeannie, wasn't married either, and she lived in her own perfect purple padded bottle. And I considered her outfit to be far more appealing than that of the gals that wore on Petticoat Junction. As a preteen, I remember distinctly announcing to my very much amused great Aunt Rena that I'd rather have a maid than a man. And yet in the 60s and the early 70s, every woman I knew was married or going in that direction, except for my Aunt Irma, who was a widow, and she was beloved by our family. She was a middle-aged mother of 3, and she was a teacher at an elementary school and the host of our Sunday dinners, and she made the most delicious pot roast and lice and ditty, which is the way I would say rice and gravy because of my overbite. I also called myself Shaman-Yamitz. Aunt Irma was my de facto paternal grandmother because my dad's mom had died on an operating table only months before I was born. She would have loved this place. Aunt Irma was her younger sister and became the matriarch of our family despite the tragedy of her earlier widowhood when her military husband contracted polio right after World War II. The loss did not diminish her personality or her humor or her charisma or her beauty, but I understood that it made her vulnerable in a way that meant that without a man, you are less. She did have a boyfriend, Uncle Jim, and I remember one of the most and only really severe admonishments that I ever received from my very sweet mother. It happened when I questioned out loud at the cashier's line at the A&P why Uncle Jim came to Myrtle Beach with us. Doesn't that mean that he could spend the night at Aunt Irma's house all the time? Doesn't he even have to have another house? And it was so confusing to me why my mother was upset about my simple question made publicly because I didn't understand that this was Aunt Irma's A&P too, and that in that community where everyone shopped at the same market, that they did not need to know a widow's woman's business in the bedroom. And after that, I began to feel that something they were doing was wrong. But of course their love for each other was not wrong. And their choice to never marry was based in part on the benefits that, as a war widow, she received while she was raising 3 children. Regardless, it let me know that there was some shame about a single woman's status, especially with a man on the side. All the kids in my neighborhood in the cul-de-sac on Manhasset Road had both parents in the house, happy or not. Parenthood was not necessarily a choice. And if you are younger than me, you must consider that the pill was not available until the mid-1960s. So if you were married before that and you didn't have children, it probably meant there was something wrong with your plumbing, like my great Aunt Rena or my godmother Bonnie, both women who never had children and for whom everyone felt some sort of pity. The household of our packs of public school kids, those households, they had various dynamics that my parents never saw because my parents' socializing was actually really with more of our own people, our friends from church and the folks who my dad built and raced sports cars with. But through my child's eyes, I saw what was really going on in those families, like which of us were afraid of our dads, and who they were often gruff and tired when they got home and not necessarily encouraged to be nurturing, and also whose mothers were quintessentially Southern and whose weren't. Gerald Campbell, Davy Duncan with the Bobby Sherman haircuts. They were the boys who were more like brothers, and they became kissing practice partners. For me and my best friend, Robin Roberts. Like me, she enjoyed the sophisticated Barbie play dates, unlike our friend Ellen, and who we both didn't think that every scenario we created needed to revolve around mothering. Robin was also the youngest of 3 kids, and her mother, Barbara, was the most enigmatic of all the mothers, and really of all the women I had ever seen, because she hung out in the summers all day long at the neighborhood putt-putt course, wearing her dark hair like Gina Lola Brigida, and her exotic coloring. It just became darker and darker as the summer wore on, and her flirtatious energy around that mini golf course manager was as intoxicating as the honeysuckle scent in the air. And I never saw Mr. Roberts outside of the home. He was pretty much always in the Barker Lounger with the beer. I know that they argued because I could hear them, but her sexually charged nature, it was such that she left me with a visual that I will never forget. One afternoon, Barbara Roberts was sitting on their couch with her legs tucked up on the cushion, smoking a cigarette, wearing a short nightgown, and nothing else. The position of her legs exposed her genitals, and that was the first view that I had ever had of a woman's vagina that wasn't the drawing on the tampon box instruction sheet next to the toilet in my mom's bathroom. And the sight was shocking. But even more so was her freedom, and how it left me both intrigued and embarrassed for myself, for her, and for my friend Robin. I think we all believed that Mrs. Roberts was having an affair with the putt-putt manager. And that was the first time that I recognized flexibility within a marriage. I suppose that none of us were surprised when Robin was the first girl that we knew to get pregnant in high school and have an abortion. I'm not sure it's fair to place all the blame on her mother. The hit movie Lifeguard, starring a 28-year-old Sam Elliott, came out that summer. And his shirtless, mustached, bronze manhood stirred the loins of every 15-year-old girl I knew. And his character, Rick, was kind and gentle to the 17-year-old heroine, asking him to deflower her in the lifeguard tower on Hermosa Beach. It is no coincidence that my own virginity at 16 was offered to a boy in my class with the very same head of hair, minus the furry chest. And here's a fun fact. A few years ago, I kissed my high school crush, Sam Elliott, when I played his barber and girlfriend on the ranch. And you will be pleased to know that his head of hair and mustache still possess that same magic. I moved to Raleigh after my 10th grade summer, and I lost touch with my Charlotte pals because I was more invested in trying to find my place in the new high school hive than in maintaining my past connections. The social constructs in the South in the late 70s were shifting, especially in that university triangle of Charlotte, Durham, and Chapel Hill. And because I was a damn good singer, thanks to church choir and Girl Scouts and public schools investing in choral programs, thank you, performing became my jam, and I sang lead in a rock band covering music by sexual independence icons like Linda Ronstadt and Joni Mitchell and Pat Benatar and Rita Coolidge and Hart and Streisand when she wore an afro and no bra. Now, sexual education was taught in public schools, but birth control was not necessarily a part of the curriculum. My parents, they never really discussed it. I learned most about it from my other role models, Mary Tyler Moore and Rhoda Morgenstern, both single women who had plenty of romantic relationships that did not result in motherhood, and they did have memorable and candid conversations about birth control. You see, my parents were virgins when they married, for real. And they were both nerdy in high school, all the way up until college, really. My dad, though, as a journalist, had a Playboy subscription for the articles that I would snoop through. And it was accepted that he went to strip clubs with the colleagues, whether mom liked it or not. But that's just what the guys did. So the messages about female sexuality, it was mixed in my house. And I believe that they assumed that I knew the basics, and they chose to believe that I was really only engaging in music during band practice. And the chances that I took in high school were breathtaking. And it wasn't until sophomore year at college that I developed the fear-based courage to make an appointment at the University Health Services to get on the pill. Yep. And the relief that I felt was not limited to me and my mustachioed boyfriend. Sometime during my junior year at Carolina, my dad casually asked how Brent and I were doing, and in response to my ebullient answer, he said, "I know, I've seen your pills." Should I have been mortified? I wasn't. The freedom to pursue my passions as a woman was supported by that shifting cultural landscape of the 70s and the 80s, by the media, by medicine, and by men's acceptance of women in the workplace. And I have loved that freedom. But in the face of the current political and social landscape, especially in my beloved but beleaguered South, I fear for sexual and reproductive autonomy, for which I know was hard fought, and for which I will never take for granted. Thank you.
Sharon Lawrence. Or should I say Shaman Yamins? All right, our next storyteller, Courtney Crane, has shared stories on stage at Expressing Motherhood and Listen to Your Mother. She has essays published in Grown and Flown and Roar, True Tales of Women Warriors. When she's not writing or empty nesting, Courtney works as an administrator at the USC Pacific Asia Museum in Pasadena. Courtney most misses the smell of hot cement sidewalk just after a summer rainstorm. Let's have a warm, or perhaps hot cement welcome for Courtney Crane with her story, The Snake.
She said, I don't like spiders and snakes, and that ain't what it takes to love me. I don't like spiders and snakes, and that ain't what it takes to love me. Like I wanna be loved by you.
I had a hat, but My mother sat cross-legged on the creaky porch swing, clinking her vodka tonic in one hand and waving her Pall Mall menthol in the other, while the younger wives at the law firm picnic gathered round, hanging on her Wellesley College tales of sliding on trays in the snow and the hardship of draining her spaghetti pot with a neck brace on from being bucked off a horse at John Sloan's Kentucky farm. John Sloan, the waspy guy she almost married. We'd heard that one 1,000 times. How honeymooning Mom and Dad ran into John Sloan in the hotel elevator in Sea Island, Georgia, stumbling drunk in a white linen suit. He tried following them back to their room till Dad smacked him across the head. I watched as Mom held court like Scarlett O'Hara, surrounded by suitors at 12 Oaks, batting her eyes, tipping her brunette head just so, tossing in a fiddle-dee-dee or I do declare, just like Scarlett. She paused mid-story to reapply her orangey lipstick and put the tube back in her Madras shorts pocket, while the captivated wives waited, adjusting their pink and green Lily Pulitzer skirts. Outside, their husbands, a clump of pink-faced lawyers, huddled in the shade by the patio bar. We drove over from New Orleans to the Gulf Coast cottage the night before the party. The crickets were singing and the frogs were croaking as I finished unloading the car. Mom, already in her nightgown, was digging through the overflowing linen closet to find the yellow tablecloth that matched the yellow candles. Dad hollered at her to call it a night, for God's sake, as he nursed his scotch and read his book in bed. But Mom wouldn't listen. She was in full party prep mode. The next morning, I set up the buffet, rolling each napkin with a fork inside and tying each bundle with a ribbon. Mom came behind me, shaking her head and rearranging my napkin rolls on the silver platter. I asked her why they only get a fork, not a knife and fork. "Oh, sugar," she snapped, "you know we only serve fork food at buffets." I placed the monogrammed towels in the bathroom and made sure there was toilet paper under the sink. Outside the bathroom window, I heard a rustling. Standing on the toilet seat, I pulled the gingham curtain back and saw a rattlesnake outside, shedding its silvery skin on the green grass. "Mom, there's a rattlesnake. Get Cusey inside," I hollered. She dropped her tray of deviled eggs and grabbed our beagle Cusey by the collar, pulling him in the screen kitchen door. "Your friends are coming. They're not going to get out of their cars with a rattler," I shrieked. Mom didn't answer and headed straight to the tool shed. Still perched on top of the toilet seat, I wouldn't let my bare feet touch the floor. Even though the snake was outside, it gave me the willies. The snake was just minding its own business, shedding its skin, and there's my mother marching towards it like a soldier with Dad's axe propped on her shoulder. With her jaw clenched, dark brows knit, and her using her famous tennis swing, she wielded the axe up high and back down, hacking the snake to bits, splattering blood on her tanned calves. She called that snake a goddamn son of a bitch. The snake parts still wiggled and the rattle still rattled. The lacy skin it shed moments ago was flattened where Mom stomped on it with her wedge-heeled espadrille. I had hoped to bring the snake skin to science lab for extra credit, but it was ruined. Mom yelled, "Courtney, bring a garbage bag and a hose and clean this mess up. Then toss the bag in the river, quick before our guests arrive." I didn't want to bag up those wiggly dead snake parts, but I was scared not to. Mom could chop me up with that same axe. Mom wanted everything perfect, not just for Dad's law firm picnic, but she wanted everything perfect anyway. When I sprained my ankle playing soccer last year, she didn't drive me straight to the doctor. Oh no. She made me bathe and put on my good green corduroy jacket and skirt, all for a stupid x-ray. She gave me the once-over and said, "Sugar, you better hold in your stomach when you wear that skirt." My mother was a proud fifth-generation New Orleanian with a little French blood and sugar plantation roots. In introductory conversation, she'd look down her aquiline nose, glossing over the fact that Dad hailed from the hills of East Tennessee, and get right to her highlight reel. That Dad graduated from Princeton and then Harvard Law School, and she graduated from Wellesley College, where Madeleine Albright was her classmate, and Ally McGraw went there too, and how people mixed up Mom with Ally McGraw. And how Dad was 1 point away from being named a Rhodes Scholar. We know. She wore their colleges like military badges, pinned to her chest in formation. Later, when I followed the wrong boyfriend to the wrong state school, I wondered how Mom would maneuver through uptown New Orleans cocktail parties, saddled with my subpar college credentials. But when I left for France my junior year, she was relieved to say, "Courtney's studying abroad." Mom loved the word abroad. You know, I bet I could have found out what really made Mom tick if I had gotten my hands on that set of red diaries she scribbled in after dinner, then locked away in the box under her bed. She kept her feelings tucked in tight, just like her pressed blouses, often repeating her mantra, "Remember, sugar, we don't air our dirty laundry." When Mom got sick with a rare autoimmune disease, she made Dad promise to burn her red diaries. The winter after she died, he made a fire in the fireplace, got on his knees, and tossed the diaries in the flames one by one. He wouldn't let me help. I won't ever know Mom's handwritten secrets. Like the rattlesnake, she shed her old silvery skin forever. Thank you.
Keep it going for Courtney Crane. Yay! Are you having a good time so far? Yay. Okay, two more amazing storytellers coming to the stage right now. I'm so thrilled to welcome up a woman that I met many, many years ago in 2005 when she took my solo show class. This is such a long time ago. This is her first time performing in Los Angeles since 2012, as she just moved back to Southern California just 2 years ago after having moved back to the South and then getting back in the car and coming back around. She has been a filmmaker ever since. She's been stuck in a, like a filmmaking hole. She's been 2 years like deep in the filmmaking hole, but she climbed out of that hole having written and directed her first feature film, My Best Friend Depression, which is coming out in theaters this fall. And when we asked her what she, I know, right? Yes, it's fantastic. Yay! When we asked what she missed most about the South, she said two things. She said she misses her accent because she doesn't have it anymore. And she misses that it's watermelon season on her grandfather's farm. Here is my friend, Heather Leroy, doing a piece called Crossbow.
applause for all of these amazing storytellers. And all of these beautiful women in the audience. Holy shit. I want to take y'all on a journey to the luxurious place that I'm from, right on the Tennessee-Alabama state line. If you've never been there, it's the Bermuda Triangle of fireworks shops, ammo stands, and Walmarts. It's gorgeous. It's God's country. Saying that, I have to take my shoes off now to tell you this story. Suddenly, I feel uppity. So we're on the farm, and today I am bonding with my dad. Now, being the only daughter and granddaughter, I bond with my dad one of three ways. I'm literally having to widen my stance to tell you this story. 1, Alabama football. 2, manual labor. Daddy's princess. 3, guns. It's July, so there's no roll tide, and I've just half-assed stained a barn, so that leaves us with guns. Now, my dad has this favorite picture of me from when I was in kindergarten, and I had this chili bowl haircut, super tomboy, I'm wearing a huge smile, and I'm holding an AK-47. He called it his Patty Hearst photo. And it's a big day because my dad just got a new crossbow. Gun adjacent. We're going gun adjacent. Okay, it's gun adjacent, weapon adjacent. And listen, I'm not talking about like Hunger Games, Zen and the Art of Fuckery, a little crossbow. Okay, I'm talking about Rambo-esque, Zero Dark 30, shooting lasers and shit, camouflage, giant crossbow. I know. Oh my God, what are you doing shooting crossbows in Alabama when they're dad? Listen, like all presidents and strippers, I too want my daddy to love me. Okay? It's true. It's true. So I am lifting up this giant crossbow. I cock it, I load it, whatever that is, cocking and loading. And I can barely hold this thing up. It's so heavy, and I've got it up, and it really shoots like a rifle. And I pull the trigger, and it's like, zoom! And there goes the arrow, and oh my God, it almost hits the bullseye. And my dad's like, that's my girl. That's my girl. And I'm like, oh my God, my dad is so excited. Maybe we'll have a hunting show on the Discovery Channel. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna leave Hollywood behind, the no glamour and no glitz, and I'll come back, and that's what's gonna happen. And as I'm thinking all of this, I'm hoisting up for a second round, and that is when I completely pull the trigger of the 200-pound Air Force string, and it snaps my thumb almost completely off. It's like, snap, oh, that's slow motion thumb action. Oh my God. That was in crossbow vision. And my dad is like, my God, I told you not to put your thumb in the danger triangle. If you weren't living in communist California, this wouldn't have happened. You live in that damn communist state and you ain't even insured. Because anytime something bad happens to me, it's communist California's fault. My dad runs inside the house. I'm writhing on the ground. I can't feel my arm. There's blood everywhere. I'm like a shot sow. My dad comes back. He doesn't know what to do. He's sprinkling nosebleed powder seemingly on my whole body. This is all I've got, and I've got some pills from the VA. What are we gonna do? I'm a refined Southerner. So there's one hospital on the Tennessee-Alabama state line, and it's called Grandview, but the locals call it Last View. Because, honey, it's the last view you're gonna see before you die. This place is like Hee Haw meets a David Lynch film. And the last person I heard who went in there never came out. Well, you see, old man Jefferson was out fishing, and he fell out of his boat and hit a rock, and they found him, and his brains were spilt out. They took him to Last View in hell. When he woke up, his stomach was bloated like he had a 3-headed alien coming out of his gut. Come to find out, he'd contracted that flesh-eating disease. Oh my God, all I can think about is my thumbless existence. There's no hitchhiking, not that I ever did before, but now it's never gonna happen. And oh my God, I forgot. I have a Captain D's Riblets audition callback on Monday. In the audition, I even mimed eating a riblet. We're greeted by this lady who looks like Jabba the Hutt with a mullet. She looks at my thumb and goes, "Oh shit, that's bad, real bad." We're literally in like overalls and covered in blood like non-union extras from Rob Zombie's House of 1,000 Corpses. The first nurse walks into the room. "I got something to make you forget that pain, baby. You want a pain shot?" I'm like, no, I just really need somebody to put this thumb back on. Then this second nurse comes in with an exaggerated limp with like one leg longer than the other, like an escaped billy goat. She starts freaking out. "My God, that's the most blood I've ever seen in my life from a thumb explosion. My life is over. I can barely keep a relationship in LA with 10 fingers, much less 9 and a nub." Finally, the doctor arrives. "There ain't no way around this. This is bad. Real bad. Now, I don't know what to tell you. You're going to probably lose that thumb. So let's hope for the best. Best to go home and put it on ice while you find a specialist." I'm like, "We're at a hospital. Is this not a hospital? My daughter moved to communist California and she can't even hold a weapon anymore." The pain shot nurse shows up and gives me a tetanus shot, and then a second. "Something special, baby. It burns." "Oh!" I'm like, "What the fuck was that?" "Oh, that was a pain shot." She disappears behind the curtains. Oh my God, what was that? Oh God, what? I hope it's not propofol. I don't want to die like Michael Jackson strung out on milk. I stand up and attempt to exit the hospital, and suddenly it feels like whatever drugs from my teens and early 20s that were stored in my spinal column have been released. I've only done acid one time, and it lasted 3 days, and I feared I would turn into the orange juice man. Do y'all know about the orange juice man? Well, where I'm from, there was this guy who thought he was a glass of orange juice. He walked like this so he wouldn't spill out. Oh my God, that's happening. I'm the orange juice man. I'm the orange juice man. Oh, I'm seeing demons, but not like Hieronymus Bosch demons, but like Howard Finster, Robert Johnson going down to the crossroads demons. My dad pulls up. "Oh my God, Dad, there's demons in your truck." "Get your ass in the truck. Being in LA has made you crazy." So we have to go to another hospital in the big city, Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I'm laying on this exam table, high as hell, completely disoriented, melting into an ocean of flesh. This doctor comes in and says, well, I don't know what you're here for. I mean, we got nobody to put that thumb back on. Why are y'all here? She's gonna have to wrap that up, take it home, and find a specialist. I am literally tripping balls. Laying face down on the exam table, I start pounding my fist and kicking my feet. Doctor, please put this thumb back together. I have a Captain D's riblets callback on Monday. You don't understand, this is my career. My dad, pay no mind to her. She lives in communist California. Hasn't had a drink in a very long time, if you know what I mean. Now, doctor, if I was somebody important in this city, maybe a lawyer or a congressman, you'd put my daughter's thumb back on. But I see how it is. Come on, Heather, let's go. We get outside the hospital, and my dad says, I'm not gonna ever ask you to shoot anything again. I think you got anger issues. I didn't book the Captain D's Riblets audition. But I did get my thumb reattached. By the cosmetic cowboy at Vanderbilt Hospital in Nashville. They literally called him the cosmetic cowboy. Unfortunately, he was not single. Fortunately, I still am, even with 10 fingers. And more importantly, though, I realized that my dad does, in fact, love me. Thank you.
Heather Leroy. Heather Leroy. Oh my goodness gracious, that was fantastic. Okay, my friends, we have one more spectacular storyteller coming to the stage. And I just got to find my notes, and then I can tell you all about her. It is my true pleasure to welcome our final storyteller of the evening, in addition to co-producing tonight's show. You know, before I say this, right after the story's over, we're going to have a beautiful curtain call, and then everybody's going to head outside so we can all hang out in the porch. So I just wanted to say that. Okay, let me tell you about this incredible woman who's coming to the stage. In addition to producing this show tonight with me, Suzanne is a fantastic book editor for hire. I highly recommend her. Her next show that she's producing is called Manecdotes at the Colony Theater in Burbank on June 24th, just in time for Father's Day. So getting tickets to the show, which is tales about and by fathers, and it'd be a perfect gift for Father's Day, so tickets are available for that. And the story you're about to hear is an excerpt from her upcoming memoir, Champagne Girl in a Budweiser Family. This piece is called The Ticket. Please welcome back to the stage the fabulous Suzanne Weerts.
Alrighty, so I'm standing at the gate at LAX scanning the terminal. I have just disembarked from my third airplane trip ever, and I don't see the one person that I know in Los Angeles. Prior to this moment, the farthest west that I have ever stepped foot is the mountains of East Tennessee. Now my white cowboy boots from Payless Shoe Source are mere feet from Hollywood. Okay, miles. The thing is, I have no idea how many miles. Truthfully, I flew to LA never having seen a map of the city. In my defense, it's 1988, there's no internet, no MapQuest. Yes, I could have found an atlas at the library, but I am not a particularly prepared pioneer. I scan the terminal and I don't see Mark anywhere. Mark was my resident assistant freshman year of college. We became friends, and after he graduated, we stayed in touch. We were talking a couple of months earlier, and he asked about my plans after graduation. Well, I don't really know I said. You should come to LA. It is great. You'd love it, he said. Well, Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Beverly Hills Cop sure did make LA look great. A seed was planted, and it was watered and fertilized when my first credit card magically arrived unsolicited in my dorm mailbox with an $800 limit. My first purchase was an airline ticket to California a week after graduation with a return flight for Christmas. You see, as the end of college neared, it was becoming increasingly clear that I had not achieved my mother's primary goal for me in going there, the MRS degree. She hoped that I would go straight from pomp and circumstance and into the wedding march. What happened with that boy you went out with last week? Mom inquired on our regular Sunday evening calls when telephone rates were the cheapest. Didn't you say that he was going to medical school? What about that young man who's joining his family's business? Is he still considering law school? When are you going to find someone and settle down? My parents never asked what I was getting my degree in. And now that I will soon have a BA in communications, the first thing that I need to communicate is that I will not be getting married anytime soon. So there I am. So there I am in the Eastern Airlines terminal when I realize a ticket is not a plan. An airline ticket is not that Willy Wonka golden ticket to success. And not seeing Mark anywhere, I head to baggage claim and I wait by the carousel for my 2 suitcases carrying all of my worldly possessions meant to get me through the next 6 months, my clothes, my Walkman with mixtapes, and a manila folder with a stack of resumes. Now, I'm at the curb and I'm looking like Ellie Mae Clampett in my floral dress and my cheap boots, standing by my faded gray bags that once belonged to my grandpa. And Mark still isn't here. I go to a phone booth and I pull out a piece of paper with his numbers on it and quarters from my purse, and I call Mark's home and his office, and I get answering machines. And I'm standing in that cramped booth and I consider my options, watching as people with friends know where they're going, get into cars or get into taxis with destinations. And I'm fighting an urge to head back into the terminal to change my return ticket for the next flight back to Raleigh. What the heck was I thinking doing this? The panicked battle is raging in my mind for a full hour when Mark pulls up to the curb in his dusty red Datsun. He hops out and we hug hello. So sorry, I'm a little late. He apologizes. Work was insane and the traffic was a nightmare. It's the first time that I have ever considered that traffic might be the reason that someone's late. It's okay, I say brightly, though I'm really near tears. I collect myself, though, because I am in Los Angeles, the city of angels, and I am ready for my next chapter. Only really I'm not. Mark lives in a nondescript apartment building in Santa Monica. It's a bachelor pad with nothing but a bed, a couch, a coffee table, a bookshelf, and a kitchenette. His monthly rent is likely twice what I paid for a whole semester in my dorm room. We make spaghetti and eat it on his couch while watching 21 Jump Street. Later, after he pours us a second glass of wine, he leans over to give me a kiss, and I move away. Ours was never a romantic relationship. What? He questions. I thought we could have some fun together. I just wasn't expecting that. Well, what did you expect? He looks angry. This is just a little fast, I stall. But he's right. What did I expect? Did I think I was going to stay in Mark's apartment indefinitely? We hadn't really had a conversation about my plans. He said, come, I bought a ticket. He said he'd meet me at the airport. What kind of a harebrained idea was this? Mark shakes his head and walks to the bathroom. I'm taking a shower. He slams the door behind him, and I hear the water running. And I wander to his bookshelf. shaking and uncertain of my next move, I'm mysteriously drawn toward a little black book amongst the Stephen Kings and the Robert Ludlums. In it, I find a list of women with whom Mark has had sex. Hundreds of names. He has rated them all, and he's written descriptions of some of their acts and their locations, from awesome blowjob on a rocky cliff to doggy style in a broom closet at work. Some have names, and some are people that I knew in college. Others are blonde chick from the biker bar or black girl with the big tits. My name is the last one in the book, with a question mark penciled next to it. Holy crap! What am I gonna do? I pretend to be asleep on the couch when he comes out of the bathroom. My mind races all night as I try to figure out my next steps. I play possum as he gets ready for work the next day. Then I grab my Walkman and I head down Santa Monica Boulevard until I come to the ocean. I don't know what to do. But as much as I am pulled back toward home, it is clear on my first sighting of the Pacific that there is so much more for me to see and to do and to learn in this expansive place. On my way back to Mark's apartment, I grab a copy of the LA Times, and then I grab my bags and a cab. Where to? The driver asks as he puts my suitcases into the trunk. I search my memory for what I know of Los Angeles. Sunset Boulevard, I say. That's a long road, he chuckles. I feel foolish. Hollywood, I declare. And soon I am soaking in the lush landscape of Beverly Hills, and then it morphs into the hard edges of the Sunset Strip, and I know that we cannot drive like this forever. I have to call it there, I say as he lets me out at a place that looks like something I can afford, the Saharan Motel. It's seedier than I expected, and I'm not streetwise, but I can tell that it wouldn't be smart to walk down Sunset with my suitcases looking for a better option. The room with its tan shag carpet and well-worn orange floral bedspread reeks of smoke. The sun is setting as I search the want ads in the LA Times. A professor in college had mentioned that the ad agencies he worked for were on Wilshire Boulevard. I guess I figured I'd just walk there and drop off resumes. Take the non-existent subway? Surely someone in human resources would see that I just graduated from UNC Chapel Hill and say, "You're hired, here's your first paycheck. Here, get yourself an apartment. Here's your second paycheck, get a car." But there aren't any advertising jobs that I'm qualified for in the LA Times, and I am still in the A's, skipping over anesthesiologist when I land on au pair. A place to live, a car to drive, $100 a week. I call and I do a phone interview, and they agree to come to Hollywood to meet me in person the next day. I fall asleep, fully clothed on top of the questionable sheets. But I am woken by a loud banging on the door. "It's Ramona, you called for me? You ready, baby?" The peephole reveals a woman wearing leopard printed leather and leaning suggestively against the railing. Shit. I grab the phone as she bangs on the door. "There's someone outside," I whisper. She bangs even louder. "Just ignore it," said the person at the desk. "She'll go away." So I do. But about an hour later, the banging starts again. This time the voice is angry and male. I look out the peephole and there's Ramona, accompanied by a large man in gold chains and a white fedora. "When you make an appointment, motherfucker, you keep your appointment." He yells and he slams his fist into the door. I call back downstairs. There's a commotion and then it's quiet. I haven't slept a wink when I meet my potential employers at the Sunset Grill. We see firsthand the working girls and basket people that Dawn Henley sings about. Maybe the flight attendant and her pilot husband are scared for me. They pity hire me on the spot, and I ride home with them to Palos Verdes as the new nanny to their 7-year-old daughter. Yeah, but you know what? It's over a month before I tell my mother about my new job, because back home, my sisters are 7 and 10. Mom is not impressed that I have traveled all this way to do something that I could have done in North Carolina and helped her take care of her life a bit. But here is the thing. There were many days where I nearly picked up the phone and changed my return ticket, but I didn't. As I shuttled my young charge around the verdant South Bay hills in the nanny's convertible, under the palm tree-lined streets to school and to parks and to play dates at the beach, I fell in love with California. I began to see myself as a risk taker, irrepressible, a survivor. Yet I never did think I'd stay. I was a Carolina girl after all. My soul is rooted in Outer Banks sand and Appalachian soil. I knew the accents and the customs, the taste of sweet tea and hush puppies, the sticky summers and the crystal-covered tree limbs of a potential blizzard that amounted to little more than flurries. But in California, I quickly embraced the Lorax tufts of palms flapping in the breeze a mile over my head, the icy cold ocean in August, the bursting blooms of jacaranda that dot the valley from a perch on a Griffith Park hike. North Carolina began to fade into my foundation, a place from the past that I could build upon, but not the land on which I wanted to construct my life. After ringing in the new year in 1989, I came back to Los Angeles. And 3.5 decades later, after several jobs, a marriage, a couple of kids, and a community of friends, LA continues to envelop me in her warmth. When the fan palm trees beckon in the breeze and the scent of jasmine fills the air, I look out over the Pacific Ocean and I remember that girl who almost turned back. And I am so glad that she didn't.
Hey! Woo-hoo! Suzanne Weerts! Keep it going for Suzanne Weerts! Thank you, my love. That is our show. You are a delight. We will see you again for Manecdotes. I have another show in July. We'll send you all the information. Let's take a moment to welcome this gorgeous cast back up, and we'll say goodnight, and then we'll see you outside on the porch. Please welcome back Jenn Brown, Suzanne Weerts, Sharon Lawrence, Janora McDuffie, Heather Leroy, Courtney Crane, and I'm Wendy Hammers. Thank you so much.